Okay, I'll take that as everyone's good to go. So what we're going to do today is we are going to graph from factored form. Okay. So we're going to take factored form and graph it. Can you tell me if you can read what's on the right? Is it zoomed in enough or not enough? Tell me if you cannot read it in. Read it. You can read it okay? So on the right is what I sent you. Okay, and it's going to be what goes in your notes itself. But we're going to follow through the steps to learn how to sketch these graphs. Okay, so the first thing here is let's pick an equation to graph. So let's pick this equation here. Y equals x minus 1 and x plus 3. Okay. And before we, let's do the first part. The first part says identify the zeros. Okay. What are the zeros of this equation here? So step 1, zeros slash x-intercepts. Who can tell me what my zeros or x-intercepts of this equation is? We may have to go back into our notes itself from before. Almost. So it is -3 is 1, 0. And what's the other 0? -3 and 1. Good. Remember, these come out and flip signs. Okay. Now, I want to explain why they're zeros. Okay. I'm going to move this over a little bit. Why they're zeros and why it's called zeros is the most important thing. So I'm going to sketch up here real quick on this graph here, my two zeros, 1 and -3. Okay, they're right there and right there. Here's my question for you right now. What is the value at those 2 points? What's the value of your y-axis? What's the value at this, where those 2 points, what's the value of the y-axis there? 0. Okay, good. So what that actually means is, if I were to replace this y, this equation would now be 0 equals x minus 1, x plus 3. So what I'm asking is, what could I put in there or there that would make this equation equal 0? Okay. So that's my goal, is to find where those equations have a y equal to 0. And in order to make a y equal to 0, I need to make one of these two equations equal to 0. Because if I make this equation equal to 0, when it multiplies with the other equation, I'm going to get 0. Okay? So that's what I'm asking is, what can I do to make this equation equal to 0? Or what can I do to make this equation equal to 0? And to show you the math of it, and that's why we make it equal to 0, because along the x-axis is 0. And sometimes it's impossible. Like if you have a parabola like this, it doesn't have any zeros. So what if the actual math of this is we actually pull this out. I say we pull it out, and we try to make that equal to 0. So x minus 1 equals 0, and we pull this out. I'll change colors so it kind of makes, well, we make this equal to 0. And then we rearrange the equation. In this case, we'd move this over, and it would become 1 equals x. We move that over, and it becomes x equals -3. And there's your 2 right there. Okay. Does that make sense to people, what I just explained? Like why, how it becomes that? Before you guys just took me at my word, unless you've done it before. Fine. So now, if we were sketching my graph here, I'm going to sketch it down here. If we were sketching the graph, what we could do right now is put a dot at -3 and put a dot at 1. So this is as we kind of start building our graph. We write those two things down. Okay. Now what we do, we'll do step 2 in purple. It says find the axis of symmetry. So if you remember, the axis of symmetry is halfway between these two. Okay. And the way we do this is we add the zeros and divide by 2. So in this case, we're going to go 1 plus -3 divided by 2, which equals -2 divided by 2, which equals -1. So that's my axis of symmetry. Give me a Y in chat if that makes sense. Therefore, halfway through here at -1, that's my axis symmetry. Do I get a Y in chat if that makes sense? Yes, no? Okay. Step 3. It says insert the axis symmetry into the equation and solve. This is your Y of your vertex. If you remember, our axis of symmetry, sorry, if I had to write down my vertex, I'll write it in the middle here. My vertex, the axis symmetry is this number, the x coordinate of our vertex. Our y coordinate of vertex, to find that, we put the axis symmetry into the equation and we solve for y. So we go back to the original equation, y equals x minus 1, x plus 3. And we're going to put in that number. Okay. -1 equals -2. This equals 2. So that equals -4. So we know that our vertex is going to be at -1 minus 4. And we can put a dot right there. Perfect. Put a G in chat if you're following along and you're good with this so far. Okay. I've written out the steps here for you to follow. It's like a little formula, right? Now, it says plot the vertex, good. I forgot to put here plot your zeros, but now it says FOIL the factored equation and change it to standard form. Okay, so we have to go back here. What color is next? Red. Oh, we'll go purplish here. Okay, well, I guess this is step 5. I don't want to get mixed up here. So we go back to the original equation. And we have to FOIL it. So remember, FOIL look like this. So y squared plus 3x. And you may be able to do this in your head. Minus x minus 3. x squared, and combine these two, plus 2x minus 3. Okay, so I did that. Then my next step would be to identify my y-intercept. And my y-intercept, if you remember, is this number right here, -3. So I can go back up to my chart. I can put a dot at -3. And there's all my points. And all I have to do last is draw a nice smooth line, which I can never do. Like such. And there's my graph. Why is the vertex 4 and not -4? It is -4. I think I wrote it down here. Oh, sorry, I misspelled. There we go. I wrote it there. I plotted it there. I just forgot it right there. Yeah, you're right, Mia. Okay. Out of 5, how did we do with those, with that general description I just did? Four, good. That's good. Good. If we're above 2 right now, after a first example, we're well on our way. Okay. Good. So make sure when you practice this, like once we finish this, you can pull this up on your computer or print it out if you wish, and work through that. So let's look here. I made it already in decimals. So that is not what I wanted. What happened there? Zoom in right here. There we go. So let's see how we did. Boom. All right. We take a look. -3 and 1. -1, -4, and 0, -3. So all our points, we made it. So let's do another one now. This equation we're going to use this time is, draw a line there to make sure we know. Go back and make this a little thicker. Y equals negative x plus 5 and 2x plus 4. Okay. Let me bring my thing up here. Who can tell me what's different about this equation and the previous equation? What have I added or changed? In the equation. Who can identify? Here's the other equation. I'll write down the other equation beside it. Y equals x minus 1 and x plus 3. There's the other equation. The negative, good, that's one change. But there's another one too. Who can, oh, I didn't see it, Haley. Great, the 2x. I'll put a 2x in here this time, right? It's just not x's. Perfect. So for step 1, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to pull these out and make them equal to 0. So x plus 5 equals 0, and 2x plus 4 equals the 0. Okay? Then we want to solve for x. That is a horrible 5. There we go. Then we want to make them equal to 0. In this case, we're going to move this one over. So x equals -5. That's just a straight switch. But this one is going to be a little more complicated. We're going to move that over. It's going to be equal to -4. Then we have to divide by 2, divide by 2. So x equals -2. So our zeros are -5 and -2. Do we understand how we got that? Does anyone need any explanation of how we got those two zeros? Price, put a Y in chat if it's a yes, I understand, or put an N in chat if no, I don't understand. Yes, yes. Okay. And then I can plot my x-intercepts or my zeros on my graph. Now, I don't need your graph to be perfect, right? We're sketching them. All right, so let's change colors here. I'll give it a couple more seconds there, just to let everyone catch up. So find the axis of symmetry. Okay, so number 2 is my axis of sim. Okay. Now I add my two zeros together and I divide by 2. So -5 plus -2 divided by 2. -5 plus -2 equals -7 divided by 2. So -3.5 is my axis of symmetry. So it's going to be somewhere here, right? And I can start building my vertex. I'll build my vertex down here. So -3.5 is going to be my first number. Then my next number is going to come next. That's the worst sentence I've said all day. My next number is going to come next. Oh. All right. Does anyone need me to slow down still? Or are we going at okay pace? Okay. So my next part, step 3 here, is I'm going to insert my axis of symmetry into the equation and solve for my vertex. So I go back, I write my original equation. Y equals negative x plus 5, 2x plus 4. And I'm going to insert I'm going to put -1 there. You guys seem to like to have a -1 instead of just a negative. I'm going to put my number now in here, -3.5 plus 5, 2 times 3.5 plus 4. Now this -1 is just going to hang out to the very end. Okay. So -3.5 plus 5 is 1.5. Now 2 times -3.5 is -7 plus 4. So I'll go one more step further. That is -3. Then I can multiply all these together. -1 times -4.5. there is my okay. How do we do with that? Yes, I understood how to do that. No, I have no clue where that came from. Does it change my dependence? Okay. Then I plotted my vertex there being negative 3.5, 4.5. Now what I do is I FOIL it to find my y-intercept. So step 5 is foiling it. Now when I FOIL this, that negative 1 is just going to hang out in front again. Okay. So first by first, then I put the negative 1 there. So that's 2x squared. Next, plus 4x. Next, plus 10x. Plus 20. That leaves me with negative 1 bracket 2x. Add those together. Plus 14x plus 20. Now here is where I bring in the negative 1. So everything, since it's just negative 1, everything's just going to switch signs. And my y-intercept, in this case, is negative 20. I'm going to draw a nice smooth line. Which looks like a perfect parabola. Okay, after we finish that one, how's our rating out of 5? 5 being perfect, 1 being no clue. Okay. We'll do one more before I release you to practice, but I'll still be online for you guys if you guys want to go over more and more and more of them. Okay. So I don't think I have enough room here, so I'm going to go beside it. Go there. Does anyone need me to go back to take a look at that last one? Or can I start the new one? Let's go big this time. Oh, yes, go back. All right. Yeah. Tell me when you have it written down, Yosin. Oh. Jadine, I've never had a what was that, boba tea. Those are the ones with like the bubbles in it, right? Boba tea may be like the most non-me thing ever. Ugh, I don't know. What do I think about a boba tea? But it's cold, isn't it? It's not hot. Are they cold or hot? Okay. Why is it called tea then? Is it actually tea? Cold tea. All right. Here we go. Here's a good one. Okay. So first things first, we have to find our zeros. Okay. I'm going to give you a little bit of time to see if you can work ahead and find your zeros. Don't type them in chat until I ask. Okay? You can write them in chat, and then I'll ask you to give them to me. You can all press enter at the same time. So I want everyone to try to find the zeros of this equation right now. Okay? It's very much, I want you to follow this step here. So take a look how I did this one. Right? As in these parts right here. Okay? And that would be, those don't match. That'd be an easy way to see how to do the other one. Okay? Especially the one highlighted right now. Okay? I'll give you a hint right now if you want to help this out. Put a D in chat if you put a Z. No, put a Z in chat if you have your zeros right now. If you think you have your zeros, put a Z in chat. Okay. Ooh, Logan's really confident. He gave me a capital Z. All right, so I'll work this through. You can, if you have your answer written in chat, feel free to write it in right now. Let's see how we did. How did we do there on our? Put a 1 in chat if you got 1 right, 1 0 right. Put a 2 in chat if you got 2 zeros right. Good. Farley and San Vito, do you mind me if I ask Was there a common error, or what error was it? Because if you had the same error, probably 5, 10 other people had the same error.
Oh, what was it? I thought that you had, if you're going to do to one side, you're doing to the other, but I was just getting them mixed up with the two.
Yeah.
Trained people.
Yeah, these are two different ones. So kind of like
Yeah.
there's two different. So don't think you do one side other. They're two different equations. So that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why we practice. All right. So first thing we did was we plugged in we graphed our zeros here. Now insert them into your axis of symmetry. So I'm going to put them in my axis of symmetry. So 5 bracket -5 plus 25, and then 10 bracket 1 minus 10. What did I just do wrong? I did something wrong. I didn't add my, never mind. Add them together, divide by 2. I got one step ahead of me. I was thoroughly confused as I was writing that. So -5 plus 1 divided by 2, -4 divided by 2 equals -2. So that's our axis of symmetry at -2. Then we plug this into our equation. So let's grow my vertex here. It's -2 comma what? Now let's plug this into our equation. So we get y equals -2 bracket 5 comma, oops, geez Louise, now I'm losing my head. Plus 25 and 10 -2 minus 10. I will give you a minute to plug that into your calculators before I do the same. Put a D in chat when you're all done your calculation. How many people got 900 as their answer? Good, that's the right answer. You probably thought it was wrong though. Now, if you have a nice calculator like this, instead of doing all these intermediate steps, you could just plug it in all at once. -2 bracket 5 bracket -2 bracket plus 25, close your bracket, start a new bracket. Minus 10. And boom, it'll give you all of it at once. So that's kind of a nice thing about having one of these calculators. And then if you're online, I sent you the link for this calculator, but you could also, if you go Desmos calculator, oops, scientific, it'll actually give you a scientific one that you could use that is just like it, right? That you could just type it in as well. Okay. So, and boom, and so I graphed my vertex there, -2, 900. Now we have to factor this bad boy. Not factor it, sorry. Expand it, FOIL it. So y equals, what's my original formula again? -2 bracket 5x plus 25 and 10x minus 10. Okay? It's not that bad. It just looks big. -2 hangs out. It's going to be 50x squared minus 50x plus 250x minus 250. Now, I can tell you something that would make you real smart right away, because the only number we're really worried about is this number times this number. So if you're really smart, you just go, okay, I don't really care about those other numbers, and just times those two together to get plus 500. And you wouldn't even have to FOIL the rest of it. Do that first expansion, right? And then do that. But for quality control, it's always good to do it. So 50x squared, that's going to be plus 250 minus 250. Then go in here. I'm going to just do this real quick. And draw a nice curve. Right, how do we feel about that? It's pretty straightforward once you kind of get going on it. Thumbs up, thumbs down. Out of 5, how do we feel about this now? 3. Farley, did you go down a level?